Okay, right, recording.
Okay.
Hang on.
I've undone my jeans.
So that's peanut M&M's.
We've got to stop. We've got to stop.
Send help, we got a problem.
Hello and welcome back to Widowed AF. You're here with Rosie Gilmoss and...
Jonathan Gilmoss.
Yeah, we're getting this now. So welcome back. Thank you for joining us. We are, as usual, recording this on the same day it's due to go out because every single week we say life's going to get much easier next week. We'll be able to do loads of things. And every single week something else happens. It's just parent life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's not even get started on the return to after-school activities and the parent taxis. So we hope you've all had a reasonable week. We've had it's been a funny old week, really, because those who are regular listeners will know that there was a meeting on Wednesday that was meant to determine whether our son was able to access the school that we have found for him, which is it is a school that specifically supports children who've had a significant trauma or loss or have SEMH, which is social, emotional, and mental health concerns. And it also gives them a really good academic grounding. So sorry, this is not an education podcast, but it's something I feel very strongly about at the moment because on Wednesday the panel met. This is a panel of people who have never met our child to decide whether he was worth spending the money on. They didn't say no, which I believe is incredible because usually they say no and then you go to tribunal. But they did ask for some more information. One thing was to consult with a school that specifically says on its website they don't cater for this need. But SEN provision is probably...
a whole other podcast.
Look, do you know what? I've just finished an interview and with a lady called Maria, and she said to me at the end of the chat, she said, oh, if you ever want to talk about SEN provision... please let's have a chat. And I said, I can do one better than that. I'm going to do a 6-week special on it. Come on. So watch this space. I'm now committing to do a 6-week special on the challenges of securing a safe place for your child to go to school if they don't fit into the neurotypical Victorian way of teaching that we still apply. For many children, it's perfectly fine. But for lots of our children, especially those who've lost a parent, which so many of us have, the idea that there's just so little care out there for them, it genuinely does break my heart. But we are meeting with our local MP, Mr. Tom Tugendhat. So about a similar issue. So we'll let you know next week if we hear. They should re-meet again on Wednesday. But aside from that, it's been all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
We went to a ball.
We did go to a ball.
We went to the Holding On Letting Go ball, which was very nice. We took my parents, and it was quite nice to go out in the evening. Really,
I even wore a tie.
He did, which kept calling his funeral suit because it is your funeral.
It is, but that's all I wore it for. I mean, hopefully I've changed the look of it now, but. Holy moly, yeah, that suits.
You need to go suit shopping. But we had a lovely time, and it was just really. My parents are good people. They're really good people, and they have welcomed John into our lives. Just as a son, I suppose they adore you, and it's mutual. So we're very lucky that we have that relationship with them.
Yeah, we are. And I got our studio rebuilt. The last version I tried to do it didn't really work. So I've put up to version 2 now, and I think this is the one.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And pretty soon it'll be on video.
I feel almost like a professional podcaster, and I've even got my sort of little inspirational LED sign behind me. No, it's not LED, it's the light up thing.
Yeah, it's like a neon.
Jesus Christ. So we're going to have a bit of a reflect on Vicky Chadwick's episodes. Vicky comes from Barnsley, which is where the lovely Jonathan comes from. Yeah. So it was kind of nice to hear the accent, actually. And really tragically, her husband, Kevin, he died of COVID at just 47. So as always, the COVID episodes are quite difficult to listen back to, and for John particularly, because it really was on a hairbreadth, the fact that you survived. So to hear from Vicky, there's also something that I pick up on now from widows who don't have children. And it's this idea that the two of you exist in this bubble together and you are each other's soulmate, for want of a better word, and you create this life that's about the two of you. And then if one of you just goes, and like he died within 24 hours of being admitted to hospital, that's unbelievable. And then what do you do next? Because whilst having children is an enormous responsibility when you're left widowed, you do at least have a family still. But when the two of you are the family, that must be just so heartbreaking.
Especially dropping into isolation as well.
Well, this is the thing. So
compound, yeah.
Yeah, so she was allowed to go in and be with him when he died on the proviso that she isolated for 14 days afterwards, which reminded me of Emma...
Charlesworth.
Thank you. My brain just dropped out then. Emma Charlesworth, and how she had to make that heartbreaking decision not to see her husband at the end because it would have meant that she then had to isolate from her child.
Yeah.
I mean, people having to make decisions based around isolating after saying goodbye to the person they love. I can remember, speaking to the doctor when they said to me, it was looking increasingly unlikely that you were going to survive. And I said to them, will you let me come in and see him? Please don't let him die alone. And they said, we will try. You'll have to wear full PPE and you'll have to isolate. As it happened, I never had to make that choice. But fuck me, imagine having to sit by your bedside as you died and then come home and isolate.
Be alone.
Like, it's making me go cold even thinking about it, because the one thing that we know from every single story and every single person that we talk to is the importance of feeling supported and loved and having a community around you when you're at your most vulnerable. And it just, I don't know, it just hurt. It stings, doesn't it? Especially knowing what we know now about the way the government behaved.
Yeah, and also with what I know now is that there is no support comes.
No.
I'm 3 years out. I still don't sleep more than 4 or 5 hours a night.
You had one phone call, didn't you? One phone call.
One phone call. No one ever checked up, but they should be checking up on Vicky,
yeah.
offering services just to help. Like, come on, what are we doing? And
there will be so many survivors of COVID who have been left in really terrible shape. We were able to provide a physiotherapist who was a family friend. And within COVID rules would have you outside sort of doing squats in the garden and things, and built your strength back up so that you are able to, apart from your sleep, you're back to your full physical fitness.
Yeah.
But what about the people that can't afford to pay for a physio, or because there isn't enough?
How would I have rehabilitated without him coming around? And I couldn't get off the sofa.
And I couldn't have done it for you. I couldn't. I wouldn't know. I mean, I suppose I would have learned how, but just the great divide in how people are able to rebuild after such a debilitating illness. And also, I kind of want to touch on the fact that it's back. Like, COVID's back. Every bugger seems to have it at the moment. It doesn't seem to be killing people, but once you've been touched by such a deadly disease, you do spend a little... The mere mention of the C word does put a little shiver of fear through us. And I have no plans to have another vaccination. I have no plans to live my life any differently. But it does, there is a little shiver, isn't there, of what if it comes back like it did before?
Yeah, but I'm sort of the opinion of, no, like, fuck it. If I get it again now and it takes me out, then...
Can you not?
I don't want it to.
Don't even talk about it.
I'm not inviting it, but... Yeah, got the bloody thing twice. Once I got stranded abroad, and the other time I went for a 4-week nap. So
I had it earlier in the year, and it was bloody horrible. Sorry, I'm just got off on a tangent on how unlike us. But I also wanted to, again, just read Vicky's episode, because there were just a couple more things that really touched me. And one was the fact that he knew he was dying, and he asked her to ring work and remind them to order some forklift gas.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh.
That says everything about the kind of man he was, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't want to let anyone down.
And just walking out, leaving the hospital, unable to go to have a hug. And you've got to tell people. But and she was able to have a funeral, which they streamed on Facebook and got 5,000 views. And just in the interview I've just done, I talked about the importance of being at a funeral. And some people feel a bit uncomfortable about going to a funeral when they perhaps only know one of the people, or they're kind of
on the periphery of friends.
Thank you. I don't know why I've lost the power of speech today. It's ideal when you're recording a podcast. And I just want to say to anybody that's listening out there, we're always being asked how you can support people who are grieving. And one of the primary things you can do is go to the funeral. You don't have to go to the wake, but go. If you can, go. Because although it doesn't take away your pain and it doesn't take the trauma and the horror of what's happened, to look behind you, I had Ben's memorial in a church, not because we're religious, but because it felt like it had the magnitude and the weight and the gravitas that it deserved. And I remember looking behind me and just seeing the church was packed, and I asked everybody to light a candle, and I'd laid out, 200 candles or whatever the vicar had, and we didn't have enough. And at the time, I just thought, these people are here because of him. Yeah. And it made such a difference. It didn't take away the pain, but it does. So, yes. And actually, a friend of mine, who's one of my very closest friends, Louise, I used to teach her child to swim back when I had a job teaching baby swimming. There's many, many strings to my bow. And she messaged me and just sort of said, what's the protocol? Because I've never met Ben. Is it okay for me to come? And I just said to her, of course, please do. And she came on her own. She didn't even bring her husband. She just came. She came to the ceremony, to the service, and she bought me a gift and she held me. And since then, we've actually moved into the same area. I didn't used to live near her, and I have never forgotten that act of kindness.
No, I don't. I remember pulling up. Weirdly, I was sat in the front of the funeral car, because of the weird numbers, but I didn't mind. And as we pulled up to the crematorium, my entire team from work, plus some of the other teams from the other departments had turned up, and we filled the place, and then outside, and then some.
Yeah, it's the guy that Ben worked with in France, because his business was based out in France, and the guy who used to do a lot of the work out there for him, and a family friend, they'd come over from France, barely spoke a word of English between them, but we looked at each other and we held each other, because Vincent is the French guy's name. He thought of Ben as a brother, and he had come over to England to pay his respects. And I'm eternally grateful that he did that.
Yeah.
Quick, seamless swerve into another topic that came up with Vicky that's pretty close to our heart, and that was sobriety. Mm-hmm. Now, Vicky openly admitted that she had been heavily into the chicken and wine.
Yeah.
I don't mean literally. I don't know what her vice was, but booze was a crutch, as it is for so many of us. And when I last spoke to her, she'd just done 3 months sober. So, Vicky, if you're listening, and I hope you are, congratulations, because I personally found the first 100 days were the hardest.
Yeah.
Once I got through the 100 days, everything became easier. There are not days that go by where I just want to down a bottle of disgusting wine, because I didn't used to like it. Just down it and not feel it, not have to deal with the world around me. But you got to deal with it eventually, and you got to deal with that hangover. And I have to say, if anybody is considering giving up booze, I have not woken up with a hangover for over 18 months now, and it's the best thing ever.
And it hasn't stopped us doing anything.
No, it hasn't. What are we doing this weekend? Oh, I'm going away. I'm going to a spa for the night. How exciting is that? Look at me and my fancy life. But we are probably going to keep this one a little bit shorter and sweeter today, because we are going off to meet this MP, and I should probably brush my hair and look semi-presentable for this. Anything else you want to talk about today?
We're still waiting on the branding for everybody who's waiting for this. That's all coming through. We're looking for merchandise, and we're looking at hats and all the other fun stuff that goes with it. Yeah,
we're going to, I've been asked a few times for hoodies, so we're going to make some, I'm not going to make them, obviously, but some really oversized, super snuggly hoodies, so that when you are feeling really crap, you can put on a hoodie that has the Widowed AF logo on it, and you know that you've got your tribe with you. So yes, I am finalising designs with the designer at the moment. So that's really, really exciting. I'll tell you what I am going to talk about, which I wasn't planning to, surprise, is you guys know that I've been battling a bit with the snake and the low mood. Now I'm back in the room. I am back doing the ice bath, and I'm not able to run at the moment because of my back, but I have been walking. And I went to yoga, and I'm trying very hard to put the pillars back in, to stack that dopamine, keep myself going. But what I realised is when you need it the most is the time that you can't do it because you just haven't got the strength or the wherewithal. And I've had some issues because I haven't been able to, I take medication for my ADHD and I'm under a private psychiatrist for this. And there's been an issue with getting the medication out in that they didn't send it I won't bore you all with the whole story. But the way the doctor's receptionist has made me feel is like an addict because the tablets that I take they are stimulant medication. They don't have much of a stimulant effect on somebody with ADHD. In fact, they calm you down. But they come as a pink slip prescription, which means that they are controlled drug. So when I've had to do this twice, I've had to call and say they haven't arrived. I've kind of been met with judgment, like I'm an addict, like I'm trying to cheat the system and get more drugs. Mm-hmm. And as somebody who is recovering from an addiction to alcohol, I find it very hurtful and upsetting, and it really, really adds to the distress that I'm already in. So I don't really know why I'm telling you this, but there must be other people like me who can't access the medication that they need or who are struggling or being met with more and more closed doors in their faces when they try and reach out for help. And it is frustrating and it's relentless and it's hard, and there's no real reason for me telling you other than to tell you that I'm kind of with you on this journey and we're trying to figure it out as we go, and as we find solutions and ideas that work for us, we will share them. But yeah, it's tough. It shouldn't be this difficult to access things that make living a normal, and I use that term very lightly, life, and things that are so easy for other people that this kind of small tablet that I take in the morning enables me to exist properly and to do things like this, to be treated like I'm some sort of addict wanting these speed pills.
Rather ironically, even back when I'm Rose's what can I be, your
firewall.
Medication enforcer / firewall. But I had a similar problem when Sarah was ill, and because she was on fentanyl patches, there was all sorts of meds and drugs that she needed, and trying to get them balanced through and get the right prescriptions to the right people. Have you brought the ID? It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Like,
and you can understand why, but it just feels like you're having to fight all the time just to get the kind of basic human right of some healthcare or education or treatment. And I don't want to be negative because, I will get my medication tomorrow and it'll all be fine. But it just needs to be better. We need to be better cared for, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
We do. I have some final things to shout out, if that's okay.
You've got to wait for me because I've got one more thing to do.
Okay.
I feel bad now. Do you want to go first?
No, that's fine. Mine's a good closer because it's quite a happy thing. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, mine's not an unhappy thing. Many of you will remember the delightful Emma Gray who came on the podcast. I couldn't tell you what episode now, but she has a Instagram page called Rainbow Hunting, and she's doing a course. I think it's a 6-week course for people to help them work through their grief. Now, this is a paid-for course. She has offered a free one as well, and I'm not promoting her in that I'm not taking a kickback. But what I am doing is telling you that Emma is a good person and she has good intentions and her heart is pure. And if you know somebody who is going through grief and they are struggling, we think we're going to offer out a free course with Emma. We're going to buy a course from Emma, or Emma's going to offer. We haven't figured the details out.
Yeah.
But we're going to get you guys to nominate somebody, or yourselves. Don't be ashamed to nominate yourselves who would benefit from this, and then we will pick from random and we will gift it to you. We just felt that we want to support Emma because what she's doing is wonderful, and we want to support you guys. So here's Emma just going to talk to you a little bit about what the course entails and what she hopes that you will gain from experiencing it. So as promised, here's Emma Gray. Welcome back onto the podcast, Emma. How are you?
Oh, feeling a little bit manic, if I'm honest.
Yeah, we were just discussing this, weren't we?
You should say so calm, excited, and really thrilled about what's coming. But the real me says a bit frazzled.
And actually, that's what we want on here. We want the real you, because admitting that you're frazzled and admitting that you're juggling a million things at once makes us all realise that we're not all failing. And Emma and I, we have both openly spoken. We have ADHD, so you either are able to do absolutely nothing or a million things at once. There's no middle ground.
Nope.
But on the subject of taking on new challenges, Emma, when you came on before, we touched on your sort of grief coaching that you offer and support through death admin. Now, your Instagram handle is Rainbow Hunting, and I would like to know a little bit more about how that came about. And then we're going to talk a little bit about a course that you're offering. Now, listeners will be aware that we don't do promotion advertising on this platform at all. So I'm recommending this to people, but I am doing it very genuinely. Emma has donated a place on her course for one of our listeners, so we would like you to nominate somebody who you think might benefit from it. I'm going to tell you how afterwards. I'm going to let Emma get a word in edgeways and explain to us what the course is.
Oh my God, Rosie, I just love you. Like, listening to your voice just makes my heart sing. Like, seriously. I've literally just listened to your episode where you interviewed my fave friend Emma, my fave wid buddy. Oh no, you're my fave wid buddy too. Oh God, there's competition now, isn't there?
That was a nice save, Emma. That was a really nice save.
Anyway, my ADHD brain's going down the thing. What you said is my Instagram handle. So in Instagram actually was where Rainbow Hunting started. Very long story short, in the worst parts of my grief, I decided that the only way I could keep moving forwards was by focusing and taking photos of the little things in life that brought me joy, whether it be the fact that I actually finished a cup of tea while it was warm, or the frost on a cobweb, or my kids smiling, or whatever. But actually my kids have always been slightly kept out of it because I've got a bit of a boundary about my kids and my Instagram. But
yeah, that's totally understandable. And yeah. Sorry, obviously we've talked over each other, but I was going to say Ben, my dead husband, was kind of anti the kids on social media, so I didn't put much of them on until actually after he died, when I got such support from my friends on Facebook that were further away. And I used to post every day a moment of joy, because I did exactly. And of course, we're so similar; it's quite uncanny. And I used to just try and find the joy, and sometimes it was just, I don't know, that I think that one day I used a picture of some chicken dippers, but I put some cucumber on it, and that to me was enough. You do find, and it's such an important thing to do, because it stops you losing hope and stops you forgetting that there still is joy in the world.
Yeah. And also I've
just taken over your chat.
No, it's your chat. I passionately believe that what we focus on grows as well. So actually, if we start focusing on those little things, we start to be more grateful. And I know that Emma C, we call each other Emma G and Emma C, but Emma C, who was sadly bereaved by COVID, who you interviewed recently, she always does be thankful. And it's the same kind of concept. I think it does give hope. And I think hope is the antithesis of depression and sadness. It helps you move forwards. So that's my rainbow hunting started, that we all live in storms, and excuse my language, shit storms sometimes. I used to say to people,
it's all good.
Shit happens, I trod in it.
Brilliant.
But the whole rainbow hunting philosophy came from the fact that we live, sometimes it's cold, wet and miserable, but you've got to keep faith that the stars and the sun are still there. They haven't gone anywhere. So you go searching for your rainbows. And that's kind of where it came about.
I like the fact that you have this attitude as well of going out and finding your own joy again and finding your own happiness, rather than sitting and waiting for somebody to bring it to you, which initially you're like, I just want somebody to make this better. But essentially, that's not going to happen, is it? You have to do it. You do it with support and empathy and compassion. But when it comes down to it, you have to do it.
And do you know, Rosie, that like goes to the heart of one of my passions. I think one of the biggest myths about coaches and therapy and counselling and all the rest of it, and obviously I'm a coach, so I'm kind of a bit more forward focused. But I think one of the big myths is people go to it to be fixed, but actually the only person who's got the magic key to fixing you is you. Sometimes you can't see that, but I passionately believe the answer is inside every single one of us. Even if we can't see it, we just need help finding it. But we are the answer to our own issues. And I really believe that. So the course has come about as a consequence of actually asking my Instagram and Facebook audience. I was like, I was there thinking, it's going to be all about the death min and the paperwork, because I was a lawyer and I'm really hot on that stuff. And actually the two things that head and shoulders came out were grief and joy. That's what people like following me for. Like you said, the fact that I'm really real. I shared on a story on Instagram today. I left my kids alone and I went back into the kitchen and it was chaos. I've only given a small snippet of the chaos because there was even more, but I'm very real. But I want people to understand that it is possible to grow life around grief. So that's what the course is called, Growing Life Around Grief. And it's not about making that magic fix, because the grief's not going, and I wouldn't want it to go, because I wouldn't want to forget my late husband. No. He's my kid's daddy. He was my soulmate. He was the person that I loved. And I love your thing, and I quote you so often, but you don't stop loving someone. It's like having another child. You find extra love and space in your heart.
Yeah, and if you're lucky enough to find it again, then you bloody hell, you grab onto it, don't you? I also, it's funny you saying about finding your own strength. It just, as our brains work, reminded me of, I spoke to somebody about my sobriety recently, and they said to me, did you go to AA? And I said, I did try AA many years ago, because my drinking has been problematic for many years. And I just found this whole idea of surrendering to a higher power. I'm not religious. I don't believe in a higher power in the first place. But this idea of surrendering your recovery to some unknown entity, I actually felt really kind of disenfranchised by that. I thought, no, if anybody's going to fix this problem, it has to be me. And I do think that is essentially why you and I kind of align in our approach so much, is that we come with compassion. Of course we do. But at some point you have to ditch the chicken and wine, and you have to get some therapy, get some fresh air, start taking responsibility. And it feels like you're being lectured at the time, but I know for a fact that you would never make anyone feel like that. Can I just ask you quickly, Emma, what sort of stage at grief would you be anticipating people do this course? Is this sort of for people who are fairly new to being widowed or grieving?
So do you know, that's a really, really interesting question. And it was one that I contemplated kind of shouting about the other day, and I didn't. And the reason I haven't done it is because I think people who are listening will know. A little bit like there's no timeline for the emotions that you feel in grief. I don't think there's a timeline for when people will want to come to this. Some people might be ready to grow life around grief after 6 months. They might be desperate to move forwards and move on and do stuff. And other people will be still stuck in a hole 5 years later, or maybe even 10, 15 years later. There is no timeline, and there's no judgment, and there's no criticism. The people listening to, I did a little talk called Finding Rainbows After Loss, where I talked a bit about the course and about my own story, so that people could understand a bit more about me. And if anybody is interested, that's totally free, and they can DM me and I'll send them a copy of it, because that was just like a little hour of Emma going off down a few tangents, but eventually telling you what the course is all about.
Sounds like one of my podcasts, Emma.
But one of the things that I am really passionate about is with grief. We've got to listen to our gut, and we're ready when we feel ready for it. And if someone's listening and isn't sure, I would just say message me, and I'll be really honest, because for some people it might be too soon. It might make them feel a bit icky, but for other people it might be perfect. So, but I will be really honest with people. Because, like you were saying earlier, one of my clients the other day. Oh, sorry, lovely. But like you said earlier, I love our talking over each other. It just makes me laugh. But like you said earlier, to me, it's about empowering the person. So if they make the decision to invest in themselves, then that is their first step on empowerment, and that's really cool.
And on the subject of this, we will address the issue of cost. So the cost of the course is £288. Is that right?
Yeah.
So
I do
that's
VAT,
for 6 weeks.
So
now,
oh, sorry, lovely, I've done it again.
That's okay. Don't worry. All I was going to say really was, I sort of, my maths is not brilliant, but I pay £50 a week for counselling. So that would be £300 for 6 weeks. So it is cheaper than going to counselling once a week. And I'm assuming that you have access to all sorts of resources that you can use on the other 6 days that you're not at counselling or that you might be at counselling. So, and I always do kind of refer back to wine and takeaways. And some people genuinely cannot afford to do this, and I sympathise hugely with you. But for most people, that is a fairly affordable amount of money. And you could always, one thing that might be nice would be to ask people to contribute if you've got a friend that you think is struggling. And we all know what it's like when there's somebody who's having a really tough time and we don't know what to do. Well, actually, something practical like this would be a far greater gift than another bouquet of flowers. And actually, I thought when we started this podcast that I would mostly be speaking to widows about our stage, the ones who are able to kind of look back and have that dark humour. And I get quite a few messages at most weeks from people who are really, really early into it. And like you say, it's the message of hope that you think that your life is never going to be good again. I remember saying to my mum, I just accept I'm going to be lonely and sad forever. I'm not lonely and sad. I'm a little sad because that doesn't go away, but I'm also happy.
Yeah, massively. Oh, Rosie, I just love talking to you because I feel like there's such a...
I know, I want to keep talking to you, but this is only a drop in an actual episode, isn't it? Emma, Emma and I have met socially. I think we showed you guys, and we do keep trying desperately to meet up again. And perhaps we'll get to do a kind of in-person one of these days. But for now, Emma, thank you so much for coming on to talk about this. And please, everybody, do have a little think about whether this would be beneficial for you or for a friend. You can drop us a message on Instagram, which is... God, how can I not remember my own Instagram? It's literally widowed_AF. Or you can find us on our website, which is the same. So just let us know, and we will arrange with Emma to contact you directly and hopefully provide somebody with some much needed comfort and solace during a difficult time. So thank you, Emma, for doing this. Now you can talk, John.
Okay. So I got a couple of things. One is, you may have mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned Channel 4 have been in touch as we were flying out on a holiday. Channel 4, if you're listening. And sorry, I haven't been in touch, but it's been kind of busy. So what I'm going to do, we've got another thing. We also have an American friend, Chad, who is now in a position to start writing his graphical novels based on, hopefully, some of our guest stories. So all the guests who've been interviewed so far, next week, I hope, don't hold me to this, but I will try next week to send a quick email out to you. If you lost your person to cancer and are interested in working with Channel 4 and their Stand Up to Cancer initiatives that they do over the summer, I believe they're looking for people. I need to double check with them that they still need us. They haven't chased us, but I will double check with them that they still need us. And also I'll be emailing out a bit more about these graphical novels that Chad is going to be making and what he's trying to achieve. He's not making comic books out of your person's death. That's not what's happening. Yeah. He's wanting to do something quite different in portraying a feeling out of a graphic novel based around the stories that of losing our person and then the survival and the growth afterwards. So if anyone's interested in donating, for want of a better word, their story and wish to get involved in that, watch out for the email, reply to it, and then we'll get you onto that stream when we're ready.
Yeah, with regards to this graphic novel, I have to say, when the email first landed, and Chad is a really nice guy, and I thought, I don't know how I feel about this. The idea of Ben being turned into a comic, like that sounds a bit grotesque. But when we had a Zoom call with Chad, and we were able to understand what he actually wants to do, and what he wants to do is he wants to create an emotion in a group of people that wouldn't necessarily have that emotion activated, like graphic novel list readers. So he wants to kind of create more empathy and understanding around death. And I think the kind of idea is that the survivors are the sort of superheroes of the story. Yeah. So it's really interesting. John and I are both going to put ourselves forward to do it. We wouldn't ask you to do anything that we wouldn't. And we should have a little bit more information. But if you want to have a Google, his name is Chad Lambert, Lambert. So you can see that he's legitimate and he's a good guy. You will be in safe hands with him.
He's a good friend of Anthony Di Broccolo.
Anthony.
See, I remembered. I had to
Yes,
pronounce your surname
yes.
after all this time, Anthony.
Anthony.
Anthony, sorry.
We nearly got
Consider
there.
me chastised.
So with that, guys, we are going to leave you and love you and leave you. We're back on Monday with
David Kelly.
David Kelly.
David Kelly.
David Kelly. We've got a bloke. So I look forward very much to you hearing this. I'd love to hear your comments on it. Love to hear any thoughts you have. Stay in touch with us and bear in mind this idea of this grief course with Emma, because I know that I would have been grateful of it back in the day. And yeah, have a think.
Yeah,
let us know.
Give us a follow on Instagram if you don't already, to watch out for the post for the
Yes.
competition, for want of a better word.
Yeah, competition's a bit harsh, doesn't it? Yeah. You don't have to like and subscribe or anything like. Well, actually, do you want to?
I'm not, no, because I'm not hustling anymore. We're not grinding. We're doing this different there.
So yes, our Instagram is widowed_AF, and we post up little videos and things up there. We're not massive social media users, which shows, but we are old dogs learning new tricks. We're doing our best. Yeah. So for now, everybody, have a great week and take care of yourselves, and we'll be back with you on Monday.
Bye-bye.